When the rest of the galaxy gave up humanity, only the weaker people were left to answer the desperate plea for help against the Zorgo invasion, which Jacob Thomas took a sip of his whiskey glass and felt burning down in his throat, not enough to bore the old memories. His gaze switched to an Andorian sliding into the seat beside him, slim blue feather and a beak that marked him as a male Vortis, one of the few still impressed by humans. "So you were there, weren't you?" The alien asked. "When did your species save us all?" He admitted that when Earth heard the distress call, "I was there, but whatever story you've heard, don't tell it half the time. When the Council asks for humanity's help, humanity is broken," and Jacob explains that their best and brightest killed each other in a war that turned their world into ashes. The rest are doctors like him, poor and hungry, considered victims by the powerful, but you saved us anyway. Vortis asks you to stop Zorgo if no one else can bid. Jacob drained his cup and pointed the other way. "Maybe I should tell you how a group of human refugees became the unlikely saviors of the galaxy, and how much we lost to return the sweet part to the Council." After he mumbled his thanks, Jacob took a swig of fresh whiskey and recounted the chaotic journey when they were stuck in a decommissioned freighter that hadn't flown in decades and was equipped with ancient weapons and a flying coffin. It was chaos, Jacob. Remember ships exploding left and right, lasers and plasma filling the void, and us being just a bunch of people? Armed with a pea shooter, Wall's eyes widened, and he asked how they survived. Jacob smiled. "That's not all we do. You see, Zorgo, despite his advanced technology, has never fought a human before. They knew what crazy bastards we can be, and he has a ferocious glint in his eye." As he spoke, we crashed into their ship and boarded them with only courage and fury. We fought in the cabin vents. We used our antique weapons, our bayonets, and our bare hands, and you know what they weren't ready for? They weren't ready for pure, unfiltered madness back against the wall. Jacob laughed darkly and took another sip of wine. "Oh, they were tough. Make no mistake, the Zorgo were the toughest bastards I ever faced. They have a way to make our best weapons, and they look like children's toys." He leaned his eyes forward, but we didn't have what they didn't. We have nothing to lose. We are fragments of people. The public is thrown away. We don't have a home to return to families without family members and wait for us all. We really want to prove our value. Jacob's voice grew louder, attracting nearby patrons. "So we fought like demons. In the book, we used all our dirty skills. We can think of any incomplete strategy. We were ambushed. Our own ships sent suicide squads to destroy their command centers, even using our own wounded as bait." He slammed his fist against the table, making Vortis jump, and it eventually worked. We started fighting with them. We retook outposts, liberated colonies, and even managed to capture a few of their ships. It was like something out of a damn movie. Jacob's eyes grew distant, his voice softening, but it came at cost. We have lost so many good people, brave people, and people who deserved better than to die in some desolate corner of the galaxy. He shook his head and drank the last of his whiskey, but we kept fighting. We had to, because we knew that if we failed, if Zorgo won, it would be the end of not only humanity but the galaxy. Each species of Wallace boasts. Back in his chair, his expression was a mixture of awe and horror. "I had no idea." He whispered the stories we heard. They made that sound so heroic. Jacob hissed. "Yes, well, war is not heroic. It is ugly and brutal, and it leaves scars that never heal. But sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes it's the only way to protect what's important." He gestured for another drink, his eyes hardened, and so we did. We fight, bleed, and sacrifice to give the galaxy a chance, and in the end, we defy the odds. We won. Vortis shook his head in disbelief. "But how?" "As you finally beat Zorgo," Jacob's eyes glazed for lost persecuting memories, "we came up with this base for several weeks, fighting the wave after the Zorgo attack on the wave." He said, his voice low and grim. "They just kept coming, no matter how many we killed." They seemed unconcerned about their losses, Jacob's hand shaking as he reached for the glass, ice cubes clinking against the side. "We had very little left: food, water, and ammunition. Medical workers are working day and night, but there are too many injuries and too many deaths." He swallowed hard, and Atham's apple cut into his throat. "There, we came up with a plan. It was crazy, even suicidal, but it was the only way." Jacob's eyes cracked open. "Returning to our ruthless intensity, we sent out a false alarm, claiming that our defenses were down and that we were ready to engage, and they fell for it. These bastards rolled and roared and burst into the base, thousands hungry for victory, but we were ready. Every time, Every room was packed with explosives, and while they were all in, we blew it up. Jacob backslash, fist, clenched, hips white. The explosion was indescribable. It shook the very ground, sending shockwaves rippling through space, and when the dust settled, there was nothing left. No Zorgo, no base, just a crater where our last stand had been. But if you're at the base and an explosion occurs, how can you survive? A wry smile escaped from Jacob's mouth, and I barely missed a piece of shrapnel tearing through my chest and tearing my heart apart. I should have died there with the rest of them. His hand moved to his chest, tracing the outline of the jagged scar, but the medical staff did not do so. Let me go. They pulled me out and kept me alive long enough to put me in a stasis chamber, and when I woke up, I was this Jacob pointing at his body, a rag rug of flesh and metal. They rebuilt me bit by bit, replacing with cybernetics what couldn't be saved but couldn't replace what I lost. My team, my friends, they were gone, and I was alone, Jacob one limping away. Vortis sat stunned and silent, his mind haunted by this incredible story. He had just heard the sacrifices, the losses, and the sheer grit and determination of those forgotten humans. It was almost too much to comprehend. Suddenly, a commotion broke out at the entrance of the bar. Vortis turned around and saw a group of Zorgo warriors rushing in with weapons drawn. The customers who were ready screamed in terror and ran for cover. Tables were overturned and glasses were smashed. Shaken, but Jacob just sighed. Turning to face the intruders with weary resignation, "I think I smell your stench," he growled and moved his hands to the plasma pistol at his waist. Leader Zorgo bared his fangs and grinned like an evil Jacob Thomas. "You thought you could hide forever, but we finally found you. And it's time to pay for what you've done to our people." Jacob laughed, a cacophony of laughter that cost nothing for the joy. "But if you want to fight, I'll give it to you in a vague action." He drew his pistol, and his cybernetic enhancements went into action. Zorgo, the leader, was followed by his warriors, who seemed to shake the base of the rod. But even with all of Jacob's skills in cybernetics, he's still just one man against the pack, and an explosion hits him in the chest. Zorgo's leader stood over him, gun raised, ready to kill, but Jacob looked at him. A defiant smile appeared on his face, and he continued to finish it despite the pain that hit his body. He issued a challenge, "But know this, even if you kill me, you will never defeat humanity. We will always fight and always resist, no matter the odds. That's why we are strong." Chief Zorgo hesitated and then lowered his weapon. "No death is too good for you." He spat, "I hope you live and suffer, because you know your sacrifice was in vain. Zorgo will rise again, and we will have our revenge." Zorgo turned and ran out, leaving Jacob bleeding on the floor. Vortis rushed to him, desperately calling for help, but holding the old welder by the head. Jacob smiled. "Shut up, it doesn't matter, kid. I'm ready. I'm fighting now. It's due to the continuation of others, just to guarantee one thing. Never forget. We must never forget the victim we are, the loss of life, or how we respect them. This is how we ensure that their death is useless." With those final words, Jacob Thomas, the last of mankind's heroes, breathed his last, his legacy forever etched in the annals of galactic history. If you enjoyed this story and want to show your support, please consider tagging and subscribing to our channel. Also, I will pay attention to every comment, including the 88 comments. Thank you for your time.